Good evening. Welcome to the Sutton Conservation Commission meeting, January 4th, 2017. 7 p.m., 11 Horse Pasture Lane. Christine and Jeff Fant, owners. Come on down.
Sit.
Please.
Whatever you would like.
Thank you for coming in.
Sure.
I believe you got this letter.
Yep.
We're just asking you to fill us in. Is that, getting that one right?
Yep. And
Hi.
you had the unlucky break of having me look at a piece of property over here. So you look at the screen. Tell me if I'm correct. Is this your property?
Yep.
Okay, so I was next door checking out a wetland boundary for an application on this property right here.
Yep.
Okay, so the wetland, can you see that little hand?
Yep.
It goes something like this, and it goes down into your property, ended near a stone wall.
Yep.
And when I got to the stone wall, I ran into all this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, look at it, familiar at all?
Yep.
So I took a picture of it because the junk's in the wetland
Okay.
stuff. And so I presented that to the commission, and I'll let them take it from here.
Okay.
Thank you. Any thoughts?
So I'm presuming you want us to move it?
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Make it disappear.
100 feet from our resource and 200 feet from perennial stream. So if you can clean it up, ideally, and get it out of that area.
Then just let us know.
Most of it's just junk steel and it's already gone.
Okay.
But I have been around the truck for a while now,
Okay.
so that's kind of the hot water heater there and your wood stove and. so-
You already got rid of most of it.
Yeah, we saw the red
Scrapped
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, most of it's just junk steel, it's scrapped.
Okay, good.
Well, just let us know when you get it out of there.
Okay.
Let it out and cross it off the list.
Okay. That's easy.
Now, I'm just asking, now look, I got a canoe down there. Is that hurting? That's not hurting anything, is it?
Can that stay there? No.
Up on sawhorses, I mean, stuff like that.
No?
You shouldn't be storing things in the wetland.
I mean, it's
Okay.
border wetland, it's not really.
Your
gotta be
feet
100
aren't
feet.
getting wet, but it is a wetland.
Right.
So it's the whole point of storing junk in the wetland. It does happen. The fear is that it's going to keep on growing. It really it shouldn't be there to begin with, but what happens with these things is they tend to grow, and the more they grow, the harder it is to get it out.
Right. No canoe.
So the rule of thumb is don't store anything in the wetland. Which in this case is about the stone wall.
Okay.
But even then, my suggestion to you is move everything to be 100 feet away from the stone wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have a time that you can have this done by? You want to go till June or, spring or?
No, before that.
Trust me, you want to go till June.
Yeah, just in
Things
case-
happen.
Just in case we get
Yeah.
bogged with snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's before, then we can let Wanda know.
As soon as it's done, let us know. If
Okay.
not, figure a few months out, June, so
Yeah.
6 months or whatever
Okay,
that is.
that's fine. And we can just let Wanda know.
Want
Yeah.
to know, and you're good to go.
Okay, that's easy.
All right, thanks.
Thank you both for coming in, your understanding.
Have a great day.
See you. Thank you. Right on schedule. 7:05.
So noted.
31 and a half West Sutton Road. Jim Leclerc.
Okay, my apologies for last month.
You can waive this. Wait a minute,
That
Jim.
was,
One second.
You have to waive the
Make a
reading.
motion to waive the reading of 31 and a half West Sutton.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I apologize for my absence the last month. That was the week that had a death in the family, and we had to wait that night preparing the music plus the video. So they showed up Thursday thinking it was Thursday, and we did say we had to show up. I have the check here, and I have the drawing. I have the one photograph. I made the drawing tonight in the dark, so I went ahead and missed off a little bit. It appeared that during, the new owners, and during it pretty much even, and my dock does not extend anywhere near further than, Journey's dock, or the new owner's dock. I do have, I have purchased, reflectors to go on it,
Okay.
and it sits
wanted
on
to
top
get
of, cinder blocks to stay up above the water level when I'm using it.
Is this one?
This one, Jim?
Pardon me? Yeah, right.
And the neighbors were in, was it the last meeting?
Couple meetings ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
One more time. Beautiful.
Discussion?
Check for the rest of the world. See
Is there
this-
anyone here for the property?
No. Assume you made all the paperwork?
I mean,
One of the checks here.
Yeah, it should be in the file there.
So this was RDA.
Yep. Just an RDA,
It's just an IDA, yeah.
filled out, hand drawing, signed, dated,
and so delivered.
looks good.
All right.
Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Make a motion to issue a negative determination.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
How's that? Well, thank you.
Go, have a good night.
Thank you.
I got to sign something here.
Enjoy the dock.
Yeah, hey, yeah, man.
You want to, yeah, you want to stamp these in, Wanda? Have a thing here to sign.
Yeah, you just gotta hold this. Yeah, just sign that. Yeah, just clip it anyway.
Planning while we're signing this board business, 32 Butternut Drive.
Oh, I'll bring that up. That's for the COC, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Wanda asked me if I had anything on it, but it's way too old. This goes back to the late early 90s. So I don't have anything on it, unfortunately.
Okay. So one, do they try and sell the house?
There were 3 files on this, and for some reason, this one here is labeled 101, 104. There was a 330, and there was a 0690. So there were 3 files. One was for the house, one was for a shed. This one here, we thought is for the pipe underneath the driveway. So that's what the lawyer is looking to have the partial that we have on that put into a complete certificate.
I remember going down there a
So
long,
you would
long
be the
time
one-
ago.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
would be the one that would remember because you were on at that time. I think you even signed partial. Yep. So, and that was back in 2008 for this one. Partial certificate was for this supposed pipe under the driveway that they had to replace. That's the only thing we can figure out. Cannot find the file. I think it might have gotten mixed in with this particular file that I have. The other one was totally closed out.
I don't quite remember what we were there for, but I remember going down there.
Here's more of the information too. Here's the partial certificate, but unfortunately, nothing was written on it to say what was needed for the ongoing conditions. And because I believe the file was mixed in with this one, I'm not sure which paperwork goes with it. So I don't know if you need to do a site visit, or if, I don't know, Brandon, can you pull that up?
Right there,
Can you,
single family house, I'll zoom out.
yeah, can you,
It's at the end of Butternut.
yeah.
The end,
Yeah, that's not it, lot 5.
well,
It's, if you're going into the road, it's on the right-hand side.
when I do a search for 11 Butternut.
No, it's
32.
32.
Oh, 30,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's why it didn't look
It's a
good.
little foggy today, so.
I knew it was on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, 32 would be the address. Yeah, the file I pulled is, I had Buttonwood instead of Butternut.
Oh,
We were thinking, we couldn't figure out why it was wrong.
that makes a little more sense. Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, so where the driveway, I can't even tell where the driveway is.
And reading through it,
It's an old one.
it was an issue with wetlands around the driveway?
Yeah, and that's why they had to put the pipe in,
Put a pipe
put
in.
18-inch second pipe underneath the driveway. That's why he took the pictures, but he couldn't send them to me on a PDF.
Right, so I'm guessing.
Is there a
it was just
CFC on the
stream
house?
crossing, because if there was a
Yeah, that
wetland
was-
crossing, there
yeah,
would have been a
there was.
wetland replication required.
This is the picture that he brought in. And he showed underneath from both ends. I told him to take as many as I could, show him the pipe.
Okay,
So I'm not sure where it would be in there because I can't see. That must be an old.
looks stable and functional to me from the pictures, but I don't have any,
No order of conditions,
there is an order of condition.
Yeah.
nothing special,
There's
nothing
no-
outstanding there.
It had a condition about putting in a pipe and erosion controls, but that's, not a big concern
Yeah.
anymore, it's just a pipe.
So it's,
There was no mention why it was only a partial, correct?
I
Not
think
that I
it
know
was
of,
because
no.
of the pipe needing to be replaced because they were selling it, and the pipe needed to be fixed, and I believe that's why this certificate was made on the partial. And then, of course, the house got sold, and it never got finished till this person bought it, and he fixed it, and then it just stayed on a partial. Nobody ever came for us.
So he's telling us it's been fixed.
Yeah,
New pipe.
yeah, that's it.
Wanda's telling us that her
Yeah.
recollection is that the reason it was a partial was because the pipe wasn't installed
Because the
previously.
pipe wasn't installed, right, they needed to put another one in to sell the house.
You can see all pipes going all the way through.
it's a nice straight hole on the other end too.
Yeah, it's quite old. And he said it's working because it's not flooding anything and the
I mean,
water's not
if the issue
pooling.
was that there was no pipe, and this is the pipe, then
It looks all right to me, but
yeah, the pipe's fine, it's just,
I mean, if it's,
not knowing whether or not, why it was a partial. I mean, there should have been notes made that,
yeah, and
why.
that's
as
what
long as
I
you show
don't
that partial.
see anywhere, that there were any notes why there was a partial. And I've looked through this file. The other file had nothing to do with this, it was just for a shed, and it was an RDA. So I don't know what we would like to do.
I'd go out on a limb and make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance on this.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
So if you wanna, here's this sheet, you can sign.
I'll sign that. 715, 355 West Sutton Road. Anthony Romeo, am I saying that right? Is anyone here for him? Yeah. Juan, did you hear anything from?
No, this is the letter that went out on December 5th.
The tree
I
lighting?
sent out,
That's the second letter, isn't it?
We discussed this the last time, didn't we?
Yes.
yeah, and I sent out the agenda December.
Last meeting,
just
right?
Before the last meeting, before the 21st. I don't know, something about what, he did, I believe he tried to call me, and I missed the first call, but then the second one, I told him, I said, well, the letter went out because they thought you were logging. He said, well, I'm not logging. That's the last I
Well,
heard.
he's cutting trees,
Yeah.
and they were all piled up there.
Where's 355?
If you go down Boston Road where they start to converge there,
Boston
Way
Road?
Sutton Road,
Yeah.
Okay.
by the cemetery.
Yep.
If you back up maybe a couple of 100 feet, you look to the right, you see a pile of logs there.
There.
Right here?
Yep.
Boston Road, Sutton. So it's this property, and
It's the back corner.
something going on down in this area right
Yeah,
here.
they cut a bunch of trees.
GIS shows the wetland. I saw the wetland, and the question is how far up does the wetland go? Because it looks like he's cutting down in this area. I got a feeling he's at least in the 100-foot buffer zone. So, yeah. Should continue to follow up on it.
Well, I would guess maybe we should issue a warning because he hasn't responded to the letter.
He didn't come in on December 7th either, did he?
No.
He hasn't been in.
Okay.
Fine by me. Yeah.
There you go.
And water will have to go with it, so.
And we don't have to turn those in to anybody, the warnings, so just keep it here.
There's
Fill it
the,
out.
and there's the address, there's the name. All right, do you want to wait till after to fill it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
do it.
You and,
All right. Emergency certificate, 47 Buttonwood Ave.
yeah.
Buttonwood Ave, that's the,
You might want to leave that one for a little bit.
later.
Yeah. Well, that's the next one we have, huh?
Well,
You wanna
Mr.
do-
Trotter's father passed away, so
Yeah. He came in with the RDA.
okay.
The thing is, what we need is, there's gonna be a meeting Monday, 10 a.m. We need 2 representatives from conservation.
I'll go.
They would like to see you go.
I'm happy to go. Yeah.
You can, and you want to go. Okay, so I will-
And what's the meeting for?
Well, because you did not issue the emergency certificate. They had the court date was today. They continued to the 18th, and they would like to have that by then, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll be at the meeting also.
Well, if we have a plan with erosion controls and so forth, and we know how it's going to be done, then we could issue the emergency certificate.
Okay, we have right here.
And it only takes one person to issue it.
I received the RDA today. This came with the paperwork. And it's got pictures too. The next couple pages are the pictures. It just doesn't show how many feet are here. I imagine that's erosion controls. He brought that in today. And has to be advertised, so it would go on to the next meeting. But I don't know if he knew about, I don't think he knew about the meeting. This came from, his name is Rocco.
His son, right?
His son, I believe, yeah. He said they were trying to get everything caught up.
Now, is the Attorney General telling them they have to have it down by the 18th?
I don't know, that might be what the meeting's process is, Board of Health, the Building Department, the Attorney General will be here on Monday. So,
I'm just confused, to be honest with you. This whole thing was the Attorney General noticed a house that was in disrepair on Buttonwood
I don't
and
know.
decided that it should come down?
all I know is it went to court.
I think the Building
before, and I
Department
think
pushed the issue.
Building Department pushed this to get this house down 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it's been going on, and when Mark was here, he said, just come in with for an emergency certificate to get this place down because it was condemned.
Well, Mark wasn't here 2 years.
Understand.
Mark hasn't been here in almost 3.5.
No, it was when he was still here. I was
Well,
here,
that was prior to July 2013.
probably. Because I don't have the date. Let me see the date I have. I don't have the date that he did that.
Does it say what it's supposed to
Probably
say?
in past minutes somewhere.
Description of work. Erosion control measures consisting of wattles will be placed at the limit of work. In addition, a freestanding 8-foot barricade, or it should be barricade, I guess, will be erected just inside the wattle barrier. The building will be demolished. All materials will be loaded, removed, and disposed of at a licensed facility to receive demolition material. Foundation will be backfilled with clean gravel, which they spelled wrong. The gravel material will be placed at a minimum slope of 2 to 1. At least I think they spelled it wrong. Did they?
No.
No?
Oh, yes, they did, the
Yes.
GRAV.
The slope will be downward from the foundation wall at Buttonwood Ave toward the brook. The toe of the slope will generally end at the foundation wall nearest the brook. The slope in any other area disturbed shall be treated with an erosion control blanket. In the spring, the slope will be loamed and seeded. The 8-foot barricade will be removed prior to placement of fill. The wattle barrier will remain in place until the slope is fully vegetated. The work, except loam and seed, is anticipated to take no longer than 3 days to complete.
Yeah, and that's for the RDA for, the bid for the 18th, so that's for that one. Now, I don't know if you want to do anything with this emergency certificate to do that before the 18th comes up, and then we just go
Well,
forward.
he came in for emergency certificate. I told him he needed
Right.
to do this,
Right, so
which he
that's
has
what
done.
did. So now Monday at the meeting, I don't know, maybe we could type this up and
I would be comfortable doing an emergency certificate now that we have their plans and what they're supposed to be doing.
Not a problem.
Brandon, have you got any issues with
I haven't seen it, just came in today, so no, I haven't seen it.
Linda?
But, yeah, good, thank you. Everything that James just read, I got a call from, I forget the guy's name, but he
Toronto.
called me,
Mr.
you know, we were here at the
Scott.
last meeting, call Brandon,
Yep.
he'll tell you what you need to do. What, the narrative that I was explaining to him, that Joyce just read in, was the information I said that Conservation Commission is going to need, and I said, you didn't need an engineered plan, but it looks like they got one made up anyway, so that's great. And they got our DA in, there's a lot of pictures. It certainly is close to that river, and there's a heck of a drop. There's a fieldstone retaining wall, and it drops off, looks like maybe 10 feet down to the water.
Mm-hmm.
the fieldstone retaining wall as part of the foundation?
Part of the foundation of the
Well,
house,
that's
yeah.
everything.
Yep. Well, this is exactly what I told them to submit, so.
Is a single row of wattles, I wouldn't say the size, but a single row of wattles sufficient that close to?
No, I put up a silt fence there.
Well, I said a barrier inside.
The barriers to be taken down prior to putting the fill in there, they said too, I believe.
8-foot barricade, what is a barricade?
Snow fence, probably.
Not 8 feet tall, but that's,
Yeah, that's what I was, when
Yeah.
Joyce first read it, I'm like, 8 foot tall? just an 8-foot long, just inside the wattle barrier. I presume that means a silt fence. Maybe what you do, if you do write out an emergency certificate,
Be specific.
specify that it's a wattle silt fence, double, and perhaps you might want more than 8 feet. Maybe you want it to be double row all the way. And it is so close and there's such a steep slope.
And you should reference
The 12-inch.
that
Yeah,
package
because
they
there's room
submitted.
to,
Yes.
Reference what?
The package they submitted.
Yes,
right here,
yeah.
and it would be a start date and an ending date, which it's not gonna
Start date
take
could be
them long.
Today, if it's emergency
It could be,
certificate,
yeah.
right? Or tomorrow.
Well, they wouldn't know till Monday when we,
Or you
Give it
could, you
to 'em.
could do it,
Or I wonder if
Well,
they're
no,
gonna
that's
wanna
right.
meet if they have an
Yeah.
emergency certificate.
if you wanna wait to write that in, and Monday at the meeting.
well, they,
then-
they might want to know tomorrow if
And
we
get the
issue tonight.
emergency certificate and then get the RDA after that
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the RDA, so that will cover, the rest of that.
You got a clue what they're gonna do now.
Yeah, and they did everything we asked them to do, and I think if we just add some,
Specifications, yeah.
we might be in good shape.
This is what the commission usually asks for when there's an emergency certificate. Get the RDA within 30 days. Now, me personally, I don't think that the reasoning or rationale for an emergency certificate is there, but there seems to be a lot of pressure from outside forces. So, you can do with that what you want, but they did submit the RDA, and they do have all the information that we asked for.
Is the RDA complete, including all notification of butters and everything
Yeah,
else?
he got his list, he picked it up today, he's gonna send it out tomorrow, like I said, 5 days before the meeting, is good. So he told him he can send it out Monday if he wants.
So he's still gotta do that, and he's still gotta, does he pay his fees or whatever
Yeah,
fees
all
are?
fees paid. So they're right up to date with what they need, except for the advertise, I'll send in the ad tomorrow. It has to be like 2 weeks before anyways, beginning of next week's ad.
Well, didn't they have a deadline from the Attorney General and then?
Yeah, it was today.
It was today, so they really
So
want this to
they-
get down quick.
Yeah, so they, right, they need to take it down. I guess there's some kind of asbestos in there too. I don't know if they
Yeah, they were gonna do that first.
Yeah, they might
You have
have
to do
done it
that
last
first.
week.
I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
wasn't
with
here.
whatever lawsuit or why they had to go to court, but the Attorney General's wants it down. What was the reason? Was it asbestos? What?
We haven't got a reason.
Was it,
Demolition.
was it
We
the
don't
building
know.
department that took him to
Yeah.
court? Yeah, the building
Dangerous.
department took it to
Building
court.
department took him to court. Okay, so
'Cause they
do what
waited
you want to
too long.
do, but in 2 weeks, there's going to be a hearing on the RDA. If you issue the emergency certificate and everything's down and all done, just be prepared to answer questions from the public as to why it got torn down before the meeting and the public had a chance to, speak about it. That's all.
Well, I believe the person who runs the company will probably be here. His name is Tom
Or
Hughes.
Some representative.
would we have to, could we wait till Monday to issue it, the emergency certificate, depending on what they need on Monday?
Yep.
So we could make that decision.
Could motion right if you wanted
Doesn't,
It only takes one person to do it anyway.
to. Yeah.
yeah, but you have money for the meeting, so I can, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so why don't we just put that on hold till Monday, and then if everybody else is okay with Bill and I making that decision Monday?
Not a problem.
Okay.
You may, just for whatever it's worth, my memory's shit, excuse me, but you may want to make a couple of notes that, the silt fence
Yep.
has to be installed and that kind of stuff,
Double.
Yeah, you could write it on that.
that's what you want prior to your,
And then we'll have the,
Right, and that the demolition should proceed per the RDA that was submitted on 1/4/17.
I mean, that's all, we were gonna write that on that,
Yeah.
and we're not at this point, so.
Wanda, do we think the need this meeting next Monday was because we didn't sign an emergency cert last week?
Probably, yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
'Cause they're gonna wanna know why.
Well,
The reason is because of the stuff you asked for.
is it
Right.
necessary, are they gonna still want that meeting if it was signed tonight? I mean, are we,
Yeah, that's already etched in stone,
okay,
so.
I'm just, so we're not wasting anyone's
Well,
time.
the answer to the part of the question, I think, if anybody asks the question, is the reason for emergency, nobody mentioned. I mean, well, we didn't know what the emergency, still don't know what the emergency is.
Yeah.
You know, is it life and death? I don't
It
know.
should have been taken down a couple of years ago, but they were dragging their feet.
So there's no
John
emergency.
took it
And we didn't have any
apart.
information on how they were gonna protect the river.
Correct. I mean, we were all within our rights. I don't think that, we should. run
Way off
scared.
schedule, though.
Yeah, we're losing time here. 7:20 now, 7:30, 12 March Road, JMH Lawn Care, Mark Sherman and Wanda. Do we have it? Been waiting patiently. We just gotta read this
Oh,
in.
I need to read it in. Let's see.
Is that spelling of the name correctly?
I'm not sure.
How do you s-
SHIRMAN?
B and E.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I
Didn't look
figured.
right, but
S-H-I-R?
Yeah, it might be
All the
E.
Shermans in Sutton are E, that's, so I picked that up.
You know, I thought that was strange, but.
Yeah, you might be right.
12 Marsh Road, the Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 4th, 2017, at 7:20 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of the hearing is to review a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission by Mark Sherman, Sutton, Mass. The project consists of moving rocks that rest next to his dock for safety reasons on map 15, parcel 92 for 12 Marsh Road in Sutton. Can you state your name for the record, please?
So I'm James Hager. I guess I'm here representing Mark. But yeah, I have a picture of these rocks. I mean, I don't know if you need me to explain pretty much what's going on. But,
Helps out.
yeah, so he obviously has a house on Lake Singletary. And now that the
You
water.
can use the visual, sorry to, if you want.
Yeah, so you can see his house is here. I mean, you really can't tell exactly, but that's his beach area, where you can see a little bit of sand there. And now that the dock is in the water and the water's receded, there's some rocks he was trying to relocate. There's nothing to be really removed from the lake. It's just to be pushed, you know, from 5 or 8 feet to the left, pretty much so that when someone jumps off the dock, they don't have to put their feet on the bottom of the rocks. I'll kind of supply these photos to take a look. There's a few of them that I'd say about a dozen that'll be removed, or not removed, but moved around. I guess I'll start with you. But out of all of them, that rock's supposed to be left. If you look at this photo here, these are the circled rocks that we moved, and they're kind of in, you know, this area. I figured this was just a better visual. And in this one, you can at least see his dock. I guess, you know, there's really not much work that is involved in the water now that the level's down, but when that comes back up, you know, obviously that can't be seen.
I have a question, has the dock been approved? And do we have it on a plan? 'Cause
So I wouldn't know. That's something that he's installed on himself, and you know, I'm not sure really what
Because
the whereabouts of that are.
we kind of need an RDA with the dock on a plan. So anybody who's coming in and it hasn't been
That is
done.
an RDA,
I know, but
Yeah.
it's not for the dock.
For the rocks. You'd have-
for the rocks, yeah.
You can put the dock on it.
Yeah, but,
Makes it official.
yes, if it's not official, he can add the dock to this and make it official, but.
Right.
Do you have the same copy of the RDA?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that, to be honest.
I have it.
You're a rock mover.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a waiver guy.
Any questions?
How are you gonna move the rocks?
So I plan to use a excavator in the excavator to move the rocks, and like I said, nothing's to be removed from the site. It's all to remain there. I would just relocate them to a safe spot, I guess, for the water. I don't really see the need to take anything off site, and you know, particularly being around the water, I don't want to do any more disturbance than needs to be done. You know, I think these rocks just kind of sit on the surface, if not kind of like half buried kind of thing. And then obviously once I was done, I would just make the area nice and smooth, you know, just kind of move the rock and not really disturb the area as little as possible.
Will you be importing any sand?
I didn't plan to bring any in. I mean, I could, I just didn't want to bring a material that would do anything to water, you know, I figured if the rock was just relocated and kind of like regraded with the natural stuff that was there, that would probably be like the least disturbance. I do have access to sand, I mean, you know, it just, I wouldn't go
I'm not saying, I was actually, I don't want to see
Yeah.
anything new in there. I just
You
wanna-
answered correctly.
Yeah.
You should have stopped talking after that. No.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just want to make sure that all you're doing is just pushing the stone to the side, so when somebody dives, you're not going to hit your head and get 7 stitches right here like I did when I was 17 years old.
You had learned?
I always learn the hard way, Dan.
Yeah, no, and like you say, I make sure to kind of relocate them so that they wouldn't be new obstructions, you know, I mean, I think this guy's got some boat traffic where you might have guests come over, so I don't want them to park their boat on the rocks any more than I want someone jump on it, you know? I mean, from the pictures, you can kind of tell there's quite a bit of rocks in the area, so it's
Well,
just around.
Is there any,
Go ahead.
is there any prohibition of taking the small rocks out?
No,
Wouldn't that be a,
just need to apply. Now, that being said, I think the commission would, this seems like a pretty benign kind of thing to me. But that being said, it is work in a resource area. Normally, if you're doing work in a resource area, it's an NOI, but I'll leave that to you. Again, it is pretty benign, and
they're here talking about it?
yeah, and it seems like it's for a legitimate reason. I just want to make sure that, you know, you're not going to be bringing in more sand and increasing the beach, and you're just moving them to the side just enough so that it's outside the diving zone. What's the draft with the, you know, with the propeller? How many feet between the propeller and the stones do you have now? Do you have any idea?
Right, so I'm not sure, I've never actually driven the boat in the water there. I don't know if it's more a propeller issue or it's just a little bit off the bottom of the ground. I would say they're less than 2 feet off the bottom. It looks like maybe at the end of the dock, could be like 8 to 10 feet deep. It looks like the water level is actually down a lot this winter, but when it comes back up in the summer, it's kind of obviously almost up to the height of the dock there. So, you know, it's not really a boating issue, I would say. But 2 feet off the bottom.
But you're saying it's a safety issue for people who want to jump off or to potentially dive off the dock?
Right. That was the main reason for this concern, yeah.
I see it as being really benign and we're for public safety, but with the condition that there's no additional materials brought in like sand, and you push the stones off to the side just enough so it's not a...
Go, say, 8 or 10 feet either side of the dock?
Yeah, like 10 feet to either side, but, you know, I think that's
But then
fine.
there's the issue of the dock. If the dock is not official and he wants to add it to this, then we can't close on this tonight, right? But he doesn't know, so,
Yeah, well, that's a
Let's-
good
Why don't
question.
we err on the caution and just put it on there?
we need a sketch.
We have the dock on the.
Well, there's just
A red line?
wheels, yeah, there's no
Well,
dock
that's
on
not
there.
the Same one anyway.
Is
Oh,
the
and then
application for
there's
the
the
NOI?
question of how-
Randy's got the other picture.
Yeah, here you go. And then there's the question of how long has there been
How
a
long is-
dock on this
oh,
property?
here-
Does it
here's the-
predate the dock, the Sutton dock regulation?
Definitely looks
It's
like a
on wheels.
temporary because
It's
it's got
definitely
wheels.
temporary with the wheels and everything, so that's the number one thing. And then it's putting the reflectors on the end and making sure that it's at least 25 feet off the property lines, which looks like it is, if it's in this area, right? Is it in this area right
Yeah,
here?
you're exactly right.
So the placement's right, and it doesn't exceed, what, 300
33
square feet
feet.
in size?
33 feet out, or 30 feet out, something like that,
30 by 10, yeah, and it can't be more than 30 feet out. Right.
which is not.
Well, we don't
Can
know.
you tell me
I know.
Oh, you
if the
know.
dock is more than 30 feet long?
I haven't measured it, but I would guess it is not, no.
Okay, by your best estimation?
I'd say 20 to 25 feet.
I've pulled up next to that dock, and it's not 30 feet.
Yeah, it's not the most big dog. Like you say, less than 300 square feet, it's really, yeah. I don't have an exact measurement, though, to to confirm or,
But to your best knowledge,
yeah, I would say it's.
based on your personal observation, it's less than 30 feet long.
Yeah,
It's a temporary dock.
yeah, like you said, it's on wheels, so.
It's less than 300 square feet in size.
Yep.
Then, that being said, put it in the RDA.
Okay.
And we'll specify that any dock that's there must comply with the Sutton dock regulation. If it does not,
Make it so.
they risk potential enforcement action. So that way, the commission does not lose its purview abilities.
Fancy words.
Great. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Good job. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
With this, to the conditions.
So make a motion to issue a negative? Is this maybe a negative?
With.
A negative determination with, the condition that no additional material be brought into the site and that the dock comply with the Sutton dock regulations.
And the stones move what?
The stones move 8 to 10 feet.
Just enough room.
Yeah, just enough room for safety reasons.
All right, there you go.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, is that approved, I guess, just to keep working on? I've got to comply with the docs though, so I'll check that first.
Don't jump the gun on the work. This has got to be
Dan
issued.
seconded.
Right.
We got 21 days to issue it,
Okay.
so just be patient.
So I'm waiting for some more work to kind of continue on my end, from the paperwork side for you guys.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night now.
Thanks for coming.
Juan, do you want a minute to get that filled in?
What?
What you working on?
No, I got it.
You good?
Yeah.
7:35,
Wait
10
a minute,
point.
we gotta sign that.
Yeah, I want to, if you want to sign that, just.
We can do it as we go. Move
You
on.
can sign it after if you want.
Oh, I forgot to pass this one down.
Which one's that?
This was the pipe.
Oh, okay.
Add that doc to that RDA.
Okay, so 12 Marsh, what did you do on that one?
That's the one we just did.
Okay. This one's signed.
I think we need to sign that one.
Yeah. That's my roadway, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 10
We gotta sign Marsh, though.
you gonna sign what?
Marsh,
Marsh.
Oh, I thought you did. Oh.
No, that's what I looked for. All right, 7:35, 10 Point Way, James Riddle, landscape rep.
Make a motion to waive the public hearing
Reading.
reading.
Second.
Sorry.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Welcome
Aye.
back. Thank you.
Enjoy the pain.
Do what?
Enjoy the pain.
So I brought a letter from my
Arborist?
ISA certified arborist. Thank you. And I did speak with the clients, and they were fine with the planting of the 2-inch or greater caliber
2.5.
trees.
Beautiful.
Okay, and where are you gonna plant the tree?
Was there any specified, does it have to be close to the original?
Near the water.
Yeah, it can be like right next to where we take the tree down. Within 5 feet of that tree.
So it'll eventually overhang the water and,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Is it, does it need to be the same oak, or is it, can just be any kind of tree?
Typically a
or-
native.
A native species.
Native species. Sure.
Not a tree, not a rhododendron.
No, tree. Yep. I was thinking either an oak or a maple.
Okay.
Alright.
Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak on this? Thank you, Dan.
Alright. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue a negative determination with the condition that the tree gets replaced close to the same spot.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good to go.
Sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming back in.
Not a problem.
Do us a favor, and once it gets planted, take a picture and email it.
Perfect.
So,
Thank
2.5 inch.
2.5
2.5
inch.
Yeah.
Maple or oak.
Or larger.
Okay.
Minimum 2.5 inch.
I'll try to get it larger. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Happy New Year. Dan?
Lauren and then Dan.
Do I just wait for, how long do I need to wait until?
We have
the-
Commission has 21 days issued.
Perfect. Thank you.
I showed up late. I was 7:05. Some of you guys want to take me now or anything.
7:05.
You're not Jimmy Leclerc, you weren't 7:05.
7:15.
So, for Anthony Romeo?
Work at 7:05. I don't know.
Who are you, sir?
Anthony Romeo.
Oh, you are?
You was 7:15.
Okay.
Close.
Okay.
Okay.
I can go back another day. It's fine.
Come on down.
No,
No.
come on down.
We were gonna issue you a warning, so,
We actually, we started to.
Anthony Romeo. DeAngelis Railroad. How you doing?
Bill Wentz, how are you?
it's fine.
How you doing?
Okay.
Anthony.
Anthony and Brandon.
Thank you for coming in. And, yeah, do we have the file back, Wanda? Or do I have it?
I think you have it there. Yeah, this is the book. Right is the book.
Yes, we noticed a pile of logs in the back there, and
The red one.
355 West Sutton.
Yeah, I gotta clean up. I gotta finish my, I gotta put my grass down there, and I gotta finish my loom, and I gotta build a little retainer wall around my garage this spring, so I kinda got a little bit of, but I got a house in Worcester, a 2-family that I'm in the middle of renovating right now, so that's kinda sucking up all my cash flow. So I'm gonna tidy up the yard as much as I can, pretty much.
would you state your name and your address too for the record, because,
That's it right
Yeah.
there, 355 West Sutton Road, Sutton, Massachusetts, Anthony M. Romeo.
Mr. Romeo. The area in question is the area in this yellow. So somebody noticed at some point, it looks like there's been some clearing of land back in this area.
That's me.
Okay. So this is where people get themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring up a layer. See what just came up right here?
Yep.
That's a wetland layer created by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gospel, it's a guide, but I've seen from my own personal observations that there is a wetland down there, and it comes pretty close to your property line. Don't know because I haven't been on your property.
Yeah, it does.
And I saw that there was some land clearing down in this area, so my fear is that, based on the reports and from what I could see from Boston Road, myself anyway, that you're doing some land clearing within 100 feet of what's called a bordering vegetated wetland.
Yeah, I was aware of that. When I started cutting down in there, when I got down to the bottom, I saw the blue tape on the tree, and I was like, whoop. And then I went on the internet, bringing too late already, and I saw the layout on the Sutton. It was already too late, and I already cut them down. Like I said, I was aware it was wet in there, but I didn't think it was right there until I got down bottom. And then I saw that And once you see that piece of blue tape, it seems like it's a new piece of blue tape every time you look at it, or something like that, you know,
Yeah,
but
they're usually like 25 or so feet apart.
there was only one on the corner of the lot, and then that was the only one I saw, but like I said, once I got to it, I did my legwork, and I was like, a couple trees turned into a couple more, and then, like I said, I saw the piece of blue tape, and it was already too late, and then,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm at right now. The trees I just cut recently were from behind my garage, and that's the pile I have right now, but all the stuff I cut before is already all gone. I already took care of all that a couple of years ago, but the stuff I just took, the pile I have right now just came from behind my garage there. And those were the ones they were all leaning on the garage and stuff like that. And if anything would happen, they would have smushed everything in there. All my valuables are in there, so I don't want to have to go through the trouble of losing everything. So that's what that pile is right now. But all those trees that came from that area right there, those were long gone a couple of years ago. So that little mess I got right now is from all the stuff that's outside the wetland. So everything that was inside the wetland was already disposed of years ago. So if you want me to I can grow whatever you want to grow back off the end of the property line there. I can just, I can just do a little bit of grass instead of doing, because I was gonna do the whole stretch of grass right to the wall, so.
Is your property line a stone wall?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. That triangle is a stone wall that runs down that diagonal line there, and then along the wetlands, and then when it comes up the other side there was a line of trees I took down that were between me and between me and the neighbor and that were behind the garage and things like that.
And I'll hand it over to the commission as far as what you would like to do.
Thank you. Thoughts, anybody?
Well, usually if somebody takes one down, you have to put one back. And what we're doing now is putting markers in at the edge of the wetland so people don't go beyond that point. And so I think maybe that's what you would need to do, is put markers to make sure that if you sell a property, nobody else impinges on that.
Yeah.
And replace some of the trees, so.
What do the invasives look like there?
I don't know.
I didn't hear the faces.
Invasive.
Invasives.
I don't know, I haven't been, I was on Boston Road, I couldn't tell.
So I would think he would need to file an RDA and come in with a plan of how you're gonna mitigate for what's been done.
How many trees do you think you cut down?
A couple of years ago, or just pretty
Well,
much
in
the
that
wetland.
wetland.
In that wetland?
in that area down there? Or about 15. Maybe they weren't very large. They were, a lot of them this big, you know what I mean? But there was probably about maybe 5 big ones, that were 20-year trees or something like that, maybe 30. The tall ones were behind the garage. Those were all the tall boys that came down. But down there was all this.
Garage is out of,
Jurisdiction.
yeah.
You just don't haul them down into it, make trouble for yourself.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, that was my little cleanup. Like I said, I got caught up with my other house in Worcester I'm taking care of, so I got people living in the house there, and they're calling every day for problems, so you know how it is, what takes your attention, the yard work my yard work here is my little release. When I get angry, I go cut trees and things like that. And it sounds stupid, but, cutting a tree with my chainsaw, I feel like we cut them all day long at work and things like that, but I don't have to do that anymore, so.
Well, it's actually
It's nice.
one's over 5 inches that you gotta replace, right?
Well, it's a guide. It's not something the commission is bound to, but that's in these situations like these, it's the easiest way to get mitigation, because trees provide wildlife habitat, so you can re-provide that wildlife habitat by jump-starting the tree growing process again, by having them replace the trees, but as you know, it's not the only mitigation technique. But, Mr. Romeo, can you take a look at this green line right here? This picture's from 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, this looks like it's about the edge of the lawn in 2013.
Yep.
I mean, how far beyond in this direction do you think you cut?
It's right to the wall.
Which is this blue line right here?
Yep. And then there's right at that corner where there's that white blob, and there's a blue flag. There's a blue piece of tape right there.
This thing, what is this thing right here?
I think it might be a 20-foot enclosed trailer.
Is it still there?
No, it's gone now. There's nothing down there now.
Okay, so you cut
Just
all the
the
way
wood.
down into here.
Yeah.
So let's take a look.
What I saw was on the bottom, on the top right there was a little bit of blue.
So you cut know, 95, 100 feet. If you go to this little corner right here, a little less.
Yep.
But, let's presume for now that the property line is the wetland line. That means he cut the entire 100-foot buffer zone on his property.
Sounds about right. So how many trees you guys want?
Well, the thing is that you can cut down trees, but this line right here was the original extent of the lawn.
Okay.
If this thing is, you're gonna have to go back if you don't do any kind of application, you're just restoring, you're gonna have to restore all the way back to the edge of this lawn to make it like it was in 2013.
Okay.
If you want anything more than that, then you're gonna have to file an application.
Stupid question, I can't just let it grow back, because it grows pretty fast. I mean, the farm's right there, he's
You're not
fertilizing like crazy.
that lucky, no.
No, it grows pretty quick. The guy next door cleared his a couple of years ago, and he's letting his grow back, and it's coming up pretty good.
Well, if you have red maples, they grow back from the stumps. But if you have oaks that are big enough, they won't grow back, they'll just die.
You know what I knew when I had troubles, when I was cutting a couple of them, they started bleeding. That's how I knew when I was in trouble, because like water came out of the bottom, and I was like, I probably shouldn't be a tree. I should be cutting right now. That's when I knew I was in trouble.
Well, does he need to file, he needs to file something after the fact, right?
For the entire 100 feet that he's admitting to,
Pretty freely.
pretty freely, I'd
That's what
say
it is.
yes, that he does. It sounds like to myself, it sounds like we're into notice of intent land. No, I don't think that this is an RDA one myself, but I'll leave that to you. So what usually happens in this case is you'd have the wetland delineated by a professional, and you come up with some kind of plan as for what you're gonna do and what your plans are for that back land beyond the lawn that was there in 2013.
So no more grass plants, huh?
No,
No more grass down bottom?
you're not listening, you're not listening. What he just said was you'd have to get an engineer, establish where the wetlands are, and then you can ask or tell us what you'd like to do with that 100-foot buffer zone. Now, typically, we don't like you to do anything within 25 feet of the wood, but you can come back and say, hey, I want to make it a lawn, I need it. I mean, you can do something with it if you want, or you can ask.
I'm not even gonna, if it's that close and I'm only working off 10 feet or something like that, it seems like a whole lot of hassle. If I knew the wetland was that close, I never would even touched a good section of trees off the property. Like I said, it was too late when I got down there, so I just finished my job, you know. But,
So you're saying you'd rather just restore that whole
I
area?
would rather, I'm not gonna even bother putting grass down there, because then everything, it's gonna grow back, it's just gonna ruin all my efforts. I still gotta build a retaining wall, I still have to do something up by the garage there to, so
Oh,
it
the
doesn't
garage,
wash
yeah,
out,
up by the
but-
garage, that's really not the issue. Your 100-foot, a wetland delineation, I think, is in order here,
Yeah.
no matter what. So I think he's gonna have to, pay some coin for a professional to do that. But let's presume for now, just as a mental exercise, that the wetland boundary is the property line. The back edge of the garage is 145 feet away. All right, so that means he has 45 feet of playroom. Let's say the wetland is up into this area.
It's not.
But it's not, okay.
It
So
was only in
he
that-
would have 45 feet of playroom from that back property line anyway. If Mr. Romeo, if you're okay with restoring,
I got a question, it changes all the time, right, though? Does the map change all the time, the wetland? Or is
it doesn't change all the
No,
time.
okay.
But the wetlands are subject to change. But it's
Not that much.
It's not that much.
Okay.
So, and it all depends on, a lot of times it depends on the person doing the delineation too, and what their personal opinion is, so. But generally, it doesn't change by more than 10 feet from year to year. Okay. If you're willing to restore it back to this way it is in this photo right here,
Mhm.
and that way you don't have to go through the hassle of a notice of intent, then I'd say still get it flagged, come up with some kind of plan, even if it's just a hand-drawn sketch, of how many trees he's gonna replace and how he's gonna restore that area. That seems
Worked
like
for
the
me.
easiest way. He seems to be the guy that's playing ball to me.
Cheapest way out.
It is cheapest and easiest way out. You won't, you're gonna have to be happy with what you have.
Signs.
The size, and if you're not, then you get into some serious going with the engineers and all that.
Who do I contact to do that?
Well, we can't recommend one, that we usually give 3. We can do that another time.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I can just leave that alone, just plant some trees back there and let it come back, I'll just take my efforts and put all my efforts on the hill there and keep my garage from washing down the hill, so.
And the signs to put up, we can give you a name with you can get those signs. They're kind of pretty little signs to.
Right, that can be a condition of the determination. But Wanda here has the paperwork for you to fill out.
Okay.
All right, so you'll fill that out, you call Wanda, she'll tell you exactly what you need to do if you have any questions.
Okay.
But I highly recommend in this case, because of the severity of the work that was done, hire a professional to flag it, the wetland boundary, and then create a sketch to show the area that you can replace. Are there any of the stumps left? They're all gone, but you said there was about 15 trees that were more or less...
Overall, from large to small, yeah.
15 trees. And then the otherwise, the ground's stable now,
Yeah.
and you just let it grow up?
Yeah, I
You
just
didn't
run
bring any
over
fill
with my
material?
lawnmower.
You didn't bring any fill material
No,
back there?
I dump on the top left, I dump all my lawn clippings and things like that. So I drive my lawnmower down, and I have to cut a path to go down to the bottom to keep it down, so I can throw the clippings down there on the top left of the property there. So I don't know. Am I still allowed to do that later on? No, I can't. Okay, I'll take them to work. No big deal. All right. Learning, no big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough.
You want to put a time frame on this?
6 months works for me.
Get the RDA submitted within 6 months?
No.
Or
No.
Get the RDA in and then all the work done in 6 months.
Does he need an idea or an NOI?
If he's just doing the restoration work,
The
I'd say
idea.
RDA is adequate.
Plus,
Well, you gotta do an ad, you gotta still have to notify abutters within 300 feet, you're still gonna have to do a consultant fee. So he's not getting out of it scot-free, but a lot cheaper than an NOI. And again, I'd still recommend having
I'll need that paper back.
professional
I'll give you the other one.
flag the wetland.
I just give it to them. Paper.
Income.
And you could put in as, eventually as a condition of the RDA is to put up signs at the wetland boundary. So that's something
Yep.
to be done.
I have some of my neighbor's trees that are right on the property line. They're not near the wetland and they're leaning. Is that something I have to come to you guys about, or can I just go to my neighbor and talk to them about them?
Once you got the wetlands flags, it'll be self-explanatory.
Yeah.
We don't care what's on the other side of the wetlands.
All right.
I recommend putting a deadline on the submission of the RDA. What's usually done is, Mr. Romeo, is in order to incentivize people to do these kinds of things, they usually give you a month or two, at which point, if they don't receive anything, they start issuing fines. So,
That's a month or two to file paperwork for what you're gonna do.
That's not taken care of. I'll bring some guys over there and we'll start cleaning up. I was gonna wait till springtime till the ground got a little harder, but.
makes sense, but you can do, you can
Get
do
the paperwork
you can
in
do the permitting
first.
and the paperwork.
Yeah,
in.
I'll just do both at the same time, so.
Okay, thank you.
Right in, nothing.
No,
Okay.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you
Sorry,
very much.
guys, I appreciate your
Are-
help.
are
Thank you
gonna-
for your
are
honesty.
gonna put a timeline?
Within, have it filed within a month,
How about 2 months?
2 months, sure.
Because he's got to delineate the
Okay.
And then you'll start issuing fines?
Yes.
As long as the paperwork's in within 2 months, right? You're okay with that?
Yep.
I'll do both at the same time.
No,
I'll
you
go
do
to
the
work and then I have paperwork,
you
but
do
I'll
the
do both.
paperwork first, then you do the work.
All right, well, thanks a lot, you guys.
Happy New
Good
Year.
night. Thank
Have a
you.
good night, appreciate your help.
750 is 56 Griggs Road, which is being continued, so.
That's a continuation, so.
Make a motion to continue to January 18th,
You can waive the reading.
2017 at
You can waive the
7:20.
You gotta waive the reading first.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to continue to January 18th, 2017 at 7:20 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
8 PM, 42 Bond Hollow Road.
Yep.
Shana and Tim Fisher, is that, did we get that right?
Correct.
Come on down.
So we're back again. The last time we were in, we were going through some legal issues with the contractor we hired several years ago regarding a bridge crossing. So that had finally ended, and we've been investigating ways to see if we can rectify the current bridge crossing that's in place. And engineering has come back and determined that that is not possible or not feasible. So what we need to do is unfortunately rip up the existing structure and fully replace it. So we've contracted with the individuals back here. They are from a company called Badass Tools, and they are out of Somers, Connecticut. It is Chuck Davis and his daughter Megan Davis, and they'll be handling the full demolition and reconstruction of the new bridge. So what we're here tonight to ask is if we can proceed with that, what steps we need to take to do that, since the existing order is still fully valid to my understanding.
Just let me give these people a little background here, that Tim and Shana bought it, and when it was approved, it was bridge designed by others, and it was a learning experience for you and for us, because we're never going to do that again. Because we didn't understand how the bridge was going to be built, and their previous contractor came in and said he had all the parts, blah, 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 and then it didn't get done correctly, and these poor people got on the hook for it. And they thought they were going to be my neighbors 5 years ago, and I thought they were going to be my neighbors 5 years ago, but it hasn't happened, so. Anyway, now I hope you're on the right track again.
So do we.
Would this be more than a field change?
No, this is just,
The demo part of it.
I don't think so. Refresh my memory, Tim. When does the order of conditions expire?
2 years from April, this coming April.
Okay, so there's plenty of time. Okay, again, the problem was the design by others. Is there a new design for the replacement bridge?
There is. It's all structural. There's no design around elevations or anything. I believe that's all on the existing site.
So you're gonna go with the same configuration as what was on the existing site plan?
Yep.
That's what you're saying, so there's gonna be no change in the footprint?
Correct.
Okay, if there's no change in the footprint, then I'm okay with it.
The erosion controls need to be refreshed, so, you know.
Yeah, I haven't been to the site in a long time. It's been stable for a long time. But now with the new work, information I would like to see is what methodology are you going to be using to remove the existing structure?
Yep.
And how you're going to keep the water's running in the stream, and how you're gonna keep the material out of the stream and all that stuff.
Right.
Okay. I'm thinking that a pre-construction meeting, due to the fact we have a new contractor on site, is always good to do.
It's beautiful. Yep.
And I think that's the way forward.
Being this is so old and it's being redeveloped, will we need to allocate more to you financially, funding wise?
At this point, I think you will. There's $250 left in the consultant fee account, and given that we're starting up, not from scratch, but with a new contractor and all, I don't think the $250 is going to cover it. I can provide a proposal to go from here on in.
Okay. Just trying to throw it all on the table because they're starting fresh with new contractor and they've been here a couple times too, so all on the same page. Discussion, anybody?
Works for me.
Thank you for the update.
So, actually, a question there regarding the pre-construction meeting. Is there anything in that that we could cover this evening?
Assuming you'd want to just see it on site.
Yeah, being on site and walking it, there's no substitute for that.
Yeah. And the erosion controls that need to be
Right, I could check up on the erosion
updated
controls at the
or
same
whatever.
time. Yeah.
I guess my question would be when, how soon could we do that? We were looking to start demolition like ASAP. We've hacked back and forth about how this construction should go on and that. We've gone through that process. Now we'd like to go ahead, so.
Just a second here.
Yep.
So you want to start this yesterday?
Sure, well, maybe tomorrow.
9 o'clock?
Oh, well, I was kidding. Like Monday, I would be.
It's 48 minutes from now.
I wasn't ready for that.
Monday's fine.
Monday would be awesome. We can do it Monday. I'll definitely meet you on site Monday. You stay as I am, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll drop my kid off at school and I'll head up.
Perfect. Which would be?
About 9 o'clock. Is that all right?
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
Okay, so put it on right now. In the meantime, I'm going to create a proposal for taking it from here. Done. Thank you.
Just like that.
Well, the erosion controls would have to be refreshed and put in place.
Most of it's in very good shape. And actually, we're kind of lucky the site is very heavily growth now. The grass has come up through, so that's in good shape. Most of the silt fence is in pretty good shape. There's some obviously cleaning up to do with it, but it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, the last person the Fishers had to the spraying there, I have a cold, I can't think. The spraying of the grass.
Just hydroseeding.
Hydroseeding. That worked really well.
It did. It really grew up nice.
Yeah, so that was great. It's been stable for a long time. We just want to make sure it stays stable.
The advantage that I believe we have now, I never saw it in the past, but all water runs away from the bridge area because the terrain has changed so much over that they've created a road that's pitched away from it. So there's no water running to our disturbed area, so that's a huge advantage.
I get it all eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, right? Yeah, you're downhill. Yep.
Yeah, I'll explain the whole thing.
Okay. Yep. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming in. Have a good night.
Happy New Year.
Likewise, thank you.
200 Worcester Providence Turnpike. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You have the note that was sent, the email that was sent in front of you. The letter with it at the bottom. It should have been right here, floating around.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
I've got it here.
Brandon, you want a few minutes?
What?
I don't know if you're studying over there.
I'm just getting the map
Okay.
ready for you.
Would like to fill us in?
If Brandon has any comments first about the letter, I'm not sure. And then I'll go right into
They'll
it.
give the commission an update on
All right.
what's done so far, and we'll take it from there, yeah.
Okay, the reason I asked for this letter, there is some difficulty with Mr. Williams. He actually told the client after he left the meeting the last time, and I mentioned that meeting date here, to appeal it to DEP. So clearly the guy, the gentleman, Mr. Williams, knows nothing about your wetland protection regulations, the Wetland Protection Act in itself. If you think you can appeal an enforcement order to DEP, which you can't. He felt something about, well, I thought you could only not cut within 75 feet of a river. The guy's out of Dudley, it's 200 feet.
And that's a state law, it's not,
And that's a state law. So he's balking at anything that the commission is requiring. I'm surprised Mr. Patel's not here, but he received the email after you received it. My office didn't send it out to Brandon, Wanda, and him at the same time. So he might have missed it because he comes in at 2, or leaves at 2 at work. And he requested me to request to be on this, at this meeting date, to see if there was anything the commission could possibly do to move it along, that he clean up this area. And I realize it's not your responsibility, but as I did bring into this letter, in some cases, the onus is both on the owner and the contractor for this work. A simple case might be, and I can explain briefly, the Sunoco in Oxford, when LaMountain replaced some gas tanks, LaMountain had known he was a contractor, replaced the tanks, it was in the riverfront area, and there was no filing. The state fined the owner and LaMountain, so just to make a point.
Because the contractor should have known.
Should have known. This guy's been a contractor for a lot of 10 years, and he's an excavation operator too. We're just trying to get him to get the stuff off the site. That being said, maybe the commission could, if you chose, write a letter as I recommended. As far as the rest of the project, if you want me to go into that, because you said keep them up to date of what's going on. We did have a site inspection with Mass Fish and Wildlife. The owner is inclined to reduce and not only inclined, he's ready to reduce the size of the dam to allow for fish to access up. We're going in there in the next 4 or 5 days to do sediment depths and water depths in the pond. There'll be orange stakes on 6-foot poles sticking up just to show how deep is the water. If we take the steel coffer dam down a foot 3 inches, which is half of what's there, the state believes that still will be fine for a trout to jump and access up. Presently, you'll have, I sent an email to Mark Bordeaux and Richard Hartley. They electroshocked the brook recently, and there's nothing up above the dam. So, but there are trout below. It's Browns and Brookies directly below, and then obviously below Boston Road, there's another population down, lower down, below Boston. That just confirms what I said was alluding to before, that there's nothing up above, and clearly 2 feet 6 inches is too much for them to navigate or jump. If we concentrate the flow, they'll be able to get up. The guy will lose some of his dam in the future. If he sells it or wants to, we'll know the sediment depth, we'll know that potentially there could be a, 401 water quality, a dredging permit, and he can create a deeper pond again. We did convince him that the snap and turtle and the great blue herons and such as that can move down into the lower lake, that we're not going to destroy them, or they might lose that habitat, but as we explained also, the cold water fishery habitat in the town, to just put a hypothetical number on it, might be a 2% compared to 98% warm water fishery. So it's a warm water pool in the middle of a cold water brook that now has been diminished because of this high dam. And so by doing this half moon at the outflow, you can see some white over there, we can have access, is the point. So we did get his cooperation, and Brandon Joyce was there, 3 guys from Fish and Wildlife, the Coldwater, Adam, Mark Bordeaux, and Richard Hartley. they'll be in fact giving Adam will be giving a talk at MACC's workshop on cold water fisheries this March, or whenever that, February, March, whenever they're having it this year. So as far as the trees, again, we're hoping that this form of mitigation with a full notice of intent, yes, that is 2 feet 6 inches on the nose. And we've had trout jumping as much as 2 feet, but it's in a concentrated flow in other areas, and that's still only once in a very short. I've been on one brook up in Westminster for since 12 years, and there's been one brook trout and brown trout. It was a perfect flow in the fall when they spawn, and they managed to navigate that and spawn up above, and that's been the only time. So this is a little bit higher, and it's more of a sheet flow than this concentrated narrow culvert that we have that concentrates the flow a little bit thicker, which you can tail up potentially. So again, foot 3 inches would not be bad. There is a scour pool below that. I think the only other thing that might be in question is if we concentrate it slightly in the center with this half moon, possibly 3 feet across, half moon to 1.5 feet down in the center. I think the only question might be is whether we need some scour rocks at the base, but it's been scoured with storms since '62 about already. So I'm not too concerned. The sheeting goes deep. If it scours the pool a little bit deeper, it can't hurt. Mr. Taft knows how deep these sheetings normally go, 20-foot sheets plus. I just did one in Burlington on the Shaw Sheen, and they're normally not shallow sheets. So that would be it. We'd end up having 2 channels coming in from either side. On the inflow from the southern tributary, which we're asking the state to electroshock this summer, and they're going to, late summer, we're going to just ensure that there's nothing up there. But if there's nothing up there, what they did do is the Cold Spring tributary, which is the northern tributary up through the golf course, all warm water species. Again, we'll share that with you. I also asked them for the lower push to show that there are trout below, that we're not just making an exercise that there's nothing down below, that recently there are trouts. And lastly, opening up the culvert that goes under the road as you enter in, which is the southern tributary. There's approximately, and we'll give you the exact height, 8 to 10 inches of water in the culvert. So it appears that the dam might have came in after they put the driveway access in. Normally you wouldn't put a pipe into the water table. This will also increase habitat, directly upgrading that pipe by allowing it to flush more thoroughly instead of backing water up onto somebody else's property, but also allowing for when organics come down, they're harder to flush out if you don't have with a steeper gradient, there's more flush to it. That's all we're saying. So by dropping the pond a bit, it improves the southern tributary and allows for access. And we clearly see good habitat up in the southern tributary. Better habitat than in the northern tributary because there's no road runoff. Armsbury Road is the only flow that goes in here, which is minimum country road. I have checked it a few months ago that it's no 146 going into that. So good. I already explained, we looked at the macrovertebrates and the population's high, and in the summer when we were in the drought. I didn't put a weir on it, but I have weird. I've got 3 brooks with weirs on it in springs, and this thing would be probably ranging about 50 to 60 gallons a minute during the drought, which was a lot of flow enough to support a fishery in that southern tributary. Unnamed, it's called UNT, unnamed tributary.
We're going to name it Glen Brook, though.
Sutton Conservation Commission.
No way.
Let me give the context. I'll give the context. All right. The southern tributary, is that this one right here, the one you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And the northern tributary, you're saying?
That's the actual Cold Spring Brook. Right, right.
Okay. So the context for everybody watching on TV is that the Econo Lodge, they cut down all of these green trees, at least 30 of them, within 200 feet of Cold Spring Brook without a permit. And the bottom line is, tell me if I'm wrong, the commission would have allowed it if they had come in and asked to begin with, with certain contingencies. But regardless, under the bylaw, the applicant has to provide mitigation for the loss of that habitat. So what Glenn is here talking about is one of the strategies for providing that mitigation. And what we're thinking about doing, looking at this picture, so here's the Econo Lodge, here's that little pond that was created in the early 60s. And there's a sheet metal cofferdam at the outlet. At the moment, we know that there's brook trout in the stream down in this area and going downstream. But there's no brook trout up in this area. And this is supposed to be a cold, we call it cold water resource. And this pond heats it up to make it a warm water resource. Cold water resource, you have trout. Warmer water resource, you're more likely to have bass and perch and sunfish. But regardless, the brook trout aren't that big, and they're having a hard time jumping over this cofferdam, which is about 2.5 feet high. Glenn's saying if you make a little half moon in here somewhere, so that the lowest part, the invert, is probably only 1.5 feet high, they can navigate that. And so the trout will be able to get upstream. At the same time, it's going to lower the elevation of the pond by about 1.5 feet. So it's not going to be as open water as it used to be. But really, this is being a cold water resource. The strategy is to encourage cold water species like trout as opposed to bass to begin with. And at the same time, you've got this feeder stream, which Glenn calls the south tributary, that goes in this way towards Armsby Road. What will happen is that more likely than not, there'll be a channel that forms through here to the outlet, and you'll have a channel over here continuing up Cold Spring Brook. So the trout will have a choice of going up Cold Spring Brook this way or going up this feeder stream. And what Glenn is pointing out from his studies is that he went in and studied this section of stream in here. One of the reasons why is because he has a client over in this area, that the stream has very high value for brook trout. The temperature's good, it has all the requisite bugs in there that they like to eat.
It's very pretty over in there.
It's very pretty, but and it's also sandy, gravelly, so they'll be able to lay eggs and it'll be a proper habitat. So that's the strategy that Glenn is working out as the mitigation for cutting down all these trees without a permit. So that's the context. I'll hand it over to you.
I thought it was very interesting to be there with Fish and Wildlife and discuss the different strategies. One of them was Fish and Wildlife wanted to take out the whole cofferdam, but it would require a crane from 146, and we thought that would be cost prohibitive, and Glenn was talking about putting in a cofferdam and having a welder come in and cut that out.
Right, we were actually, we priced out Rain for Rent and Baker Tank for pumps in the middle of the summer, and we priced out Belcher Steel, which is Kerry Belcher, on the cutting, and we're pricing it out now. We're gonna, once we remove all the slash that's on the property, we're gonna count out the trees that he would have had to replace within 200 feet. We're gonna tape measure from the brook. There'll be several locations where I flag at mean annual high water. We'll tape out the 200 feet to hopefully save the gentleman some money there. Show the 200, count the trees within the 200, give an estimate on the cost for if it was a replacement. And it's not just the replacement under the bylaw. This is riverfront area, so there's also a requirement under there, because it's not just a buffer zone, it's a riverfront resource area. We're lucky that he didn't cut anything that overhangs the brook that would have heated it back up. I still think I'm leaving the gentleman in the future that if the pond was in the water table, the pond can be cold. I built trout ponds, IPG in South Oxford, and the problem with this is above the water table. So once we know, and we'll give you actually the depth of the mud, the depth of the water, we'll know how far we're going down, we know we're not gonna flush mud out, and the other problem with flushing the mud out if we pull the dam out is that we have a drinking water well system down there, and also the people downstream might have a little issue with filling in, as deltering the pond. Fish and Wildlife did come up with that. A lot of the dams, Weaky Peaky, if you read in the paper last year, they pulled the dams out up there. And they're doing some in Northbridge, and there's a couple, 2 of them in Sturbridge. And they're pulling the dams out and letting the material flush downstream. It's much more costly for the work that's being done. Fish and Wildlife is involved more heavily. With this, we can lower it down, not flush the mud out, so we don't get into this mud issue. The cost is a little bit lower, and I think it's going to be more comparable to the mitigation that you would have required if he went and tried to permit the cutting of the trees behind the house. So I'm trying to keep the costs. Clearly, this only became a client because I am working upstream. I'm familiar with the brook from Mark Briggs in the past. I wasn't trying to grab a client out of here just to let everyone know, but because it is a trout brook, and I do want to, and I'm involved with 4 trout projects right now. So it's just another one that I'm familiar with, and I had the opportunity to maybe add something that we once looked at with Trout Unlimited, back probably 5 or 6 years ago, about this fish ladder there. But the owner at the time, whoever it was, as far as Mr. Briggs was saying, we had 2 Trout Unlimited, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Mass, and Mark, myself, 8 in the morning, and it was because they were doing a stream continuity workshop in Worcester, and they had the opportunity to meet me at 8 to then go to that workshop, and that's why we had met there. It was going nowhere, and now we see that we have an opportunity to go somewhere. But I still want to say that, you know, the gentleman, lastly, to take the value away from his property if he wanted a pond, if he dug it in the water table. Groundwater is 46 to 48 generally. I study it with temperature probes. I try to study the springs. That's what the female trout lays her eggs in. That's what hatches, develops the egg through the winter and hatches it actually in the winter. Late January, they'll be hatching. Trout will actually start hatching at the end of this month and the beginning of February if it's a groundwater-fed nest that they have. 46 to 48 eggs start hatching. The point is that he potentially could come back in the future, and if you dig the pond out of the water table, the pond stays cooler, and you actually have trout pond, even in the eastern coastal plain, trout ponds, there's not many, but they're in the water table. This being above the water table, it just heats up. So I'm not taking his total value away, and he understands that if he ever wanted to come back and propose to put a smaller pond in there by taking the mud out and maybe going into the water table. At that time, he would take the coffer dam fully out and have potentially a smaller pond. But at this time, he's set, I believe, 98%, and we've talked, that he's satisfied with the removal. Now that Fish and Wildlife convinced him that the turtles and the great blue herons aren't the ultimate thing to be saved.
I think it's a great mitigation versus the trees in this case.
Yeah.
And I think we just have to decide if we're going to write the letter to the logger.
I have no problem sending the logger the letter. In fact,
It can be a gentle letter.
It doesn't need to be gentle. Bob should write the letter.
I put more into it when I first wrote it. I said, no, don't put that in there. Yeah, I don't want to really, not gonna, you know, just enough to maybe get him to clean it up if he's kind of dragging his feet a little bit. It seems like he's not being responsive to Mr. Patel, and we want to get in here and get done. And we have the 18th to put something in front of you, and it would be beneficial to at least have one small, the beginning aspect done, and we can continue on with the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
So do you want to put this on?
I just have one question. If you looked at all the drainage from the parking lot, where does that go?
Brandon understands.
Yeah.
This couple,
Yeah, this is part of the context too, is finding what would be the best mitigation. My original thought was do some kind of stormwater mitigation because at the moment there are there's nothing. This parking lot is so old. There's a sluice way.
60s technologies.
60s technology, which is a sluice way going straight into the pond. It's either sheet flow over the grass into the pond, but right here there's a sluice way that goes. All the stormwater goes directly into here. So then the question is, well, how often does the Conservation Commission have an opportunity to facilitate a stream continuity project like this? And yeah, the dam isn't coming out, but it could get lowered to help bring trout upstream. And then the question is, well, does the punishment fit the crime? So he took down 30 trees, maybe 35 trees without a permit, right? If he was to replace the 2.5-inch caliber tree, we're talking 35 trees at about $250 to $300 a piece. That comes up to almost 10 grand just to buy the trees, never mind transporting them and then planting them. You might be up more like 15 grand. So when we were going through the options with fisheries, well, how much would it cost to take the dam out? A lot, probably more than 15 grand by the time you're done. Okay, well, do we really need to do that? If we just did a half circle, yeah, it'd be less than that. But, Bob, you're talking about stormwater, that's another issue as well.
Can I go into that stormwater just a bit also? One thing about the stormwater, it's a fairly clean parking lot because we don't have a lot of traffic in there. It is impervious, but compared to all of the southern end, I'm weighing, because I worked, as Brandon knows, and some of the commission members know, we worked on cleaning up the stormwater from north to south on 146. And that's an ideal situation when you can get clean, that type of stormwater and DOT to do it. With stormwater coming from south to north down, there's no mitigation as far as basins. So this little drop of stormwater and what's already going in for the roads and had been going in until they just revamped that road. And it was, so both of those were coming in. It didn't deplete the trout fishery down gradient of that bridge. So the periodic flush through of those fines, and that's a lot of road system, and that's a lot of traffic on a lot of road. And we know how many fines, I'm on a brook right now, working the one that comes out of Webster Lake, and I have 2 to 3 feet of road sand from 395, Route 12, all of Main Street in Webster. That's coming into Millbrook, going down to Perryville, into the French River. You want to talk, we're in there with hip boots on Saturday, and I've got silts this deep, and behind clogs of tires and tractor trailers and everything else. The point is, the fishery hasn't been depleted by that flow. There's a little bit more coming in. I agree that there's a parking lot that could be treated. I think it's a drop in the bucket compared to coming from 146 that hasn't knocked out that trout fishery at this point. I think what has knocked out the trout fishery clearly is the access up 2.5 feet. So I was still pushing that. The main thing is that I weigh out also the value of his pond and what he's losing with how much with that, some of that 15 grand might come out of. So there's a value he's willing to give up for the environment, for trout.
We also have the temperature study from down below, behind the market, where we had they did a study of the temperature of the
Right.
water, so that we could see before and after
Right.
the Pleasant Valley crossing.
One thing nice about this area, the reason why that southern tributary is cold, because of that, there's enough gradient, and it is that outwash plain, glacial outwash plain. There's enough groundwater moving in there that trout can harbinger themselves during storm events in cold spots, that it hasn't kicked out the fishery below. I think the more concern that I have is that the northern tributary coming through the golf course, that warm water pond, total sunlit light. There's a Bear Brook study out of New Hampshire. There you have constant sunlight coming in. This new marsh will slightly shade it. You won't have that larger pond area to heat up. And we do have a good southern tributary that is nearly intact. There's no sands coming from Almsbury. I don't see anything from up above. So I still weigh out that the removal of part of the dam might be, and that's up to the commission, more than enough weight to outweigh the trees, or putting in catch basins or sediment or sumps that might come through with the if you did go with pushing the stormwater in the parking lot. We can get a larger fishery, and there's the other thing too. The southern tributary, once restored, and we're going to work on that, move Keystone. Unibank owns the piece above the 214 Boston, Worcester Providence, and we're going to be approaching them to remove and obviously go through you key clogs. Even Adam Kutz, the new guy, as I brought up to him, removing sticks to allow for flush, to give a deeper channel. opposed to a backed up channel that has sediment behind each one. The shallow nature of the brook up above can be increased by about a foot deep by 2 feet wide. The southern tributary could be its own fishery and support itself. And I want to improve that by dropping the elevation at the beginning of it.
You could
if I
see
can.
behind that house
We
where,
We already did that.
yeah,
Provide a little context.
Yeah.
I'll predict that eventually there's gonna be some kind of construction or reconstruction at the Econo Lodge that is gonna trigger stormwater to be upgraded, okay? It'll happen eventually. What I'm seeing here is an opportunity to do stream continuity that doesn't happen every day. It's something that, through the bylaw, the commission could take advantage of. So, given the choice between the two, I'm personally more inclined to go towards the stream continuity mitigation, but that's up to you. There's nothing wrong and perfectly valid to look at stormwater runoff, but I think that eventually there's going to be something done there that's going to trigger it through the regulations anyway.
And Brandon did bring up stormwater, and we did a brief discussion at the site, and even before that, I think you mentioned stormwater. I just don't weigh it as heavy at this one point as the continuity issue, and maybe never getting that opportunity again. How do you kind of force something like that?
Right,
How do you get the guy to cooperate to do something like that?
thank you for coming in.
Thank you again. Good New Year again. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. We'll be working to get paperwork in front of you, even if it's not full paperwork. We'll have something in front of you prior
Well,
to the next
that's a
meeting.
good point, Glenn, because the commission put a date on.
The 18th.
2 weeks from now.
Right, so the 18th, get the NOI in or face
I need it
fines.
tomorrow.
We're gonna give you paperwork. You
Give-
will have paperwork by that date. It's just clearly,
It
I
doesn't
just
have to
got on
be on
board.
the agenda for the
Oh,
18th, it
alright.
just has to be in by the 18th.
Oh, I see, okay.
Right.
I just got hired the other day. I wasn't even hired when we were meeting with Fish and Wildlife. I says, you either gotta do, I gave him a proposal,
Well-
but he didn't know where it was going, so I says, you gotta do something one way or the other, and so finally he did bring me on. So it's been recent, I just got
So
on.
Glenn, do you think that seeing as you just got hired,
Yeah.
that 2 weeks is enough time to get your stuff together?
We're gonna, I have enough time to, we'll have the abutters list, we'll have the notice of intent. I think the plan will be drafted, the language will be drafted, something that you might be reviewing. I still want to shoot that I'll have paperwork in front of you by that date. I don't think I clearly won't have a public hearing by that. Like you said, it's due by tomorrow. My
Yeah.
goal is to give you paperwork in 2 weeks.
So for the meeting after that,
That's what I
till
would-
the 19th.
That's what I'd be shooting for that.
And it's not gonna be half done just because you need to beat that deadline?
Great question. I would think that I'd be either 85% done or fully done. So but I still want to satisfy that I've given you the notice of intent. This is, let me say that this is not, at this time, probably 98% of my filings are with survey plan. In this one case, because there was some discussion about, are you going to force them into the survey plan? I'm working to do this with a scaled plan, but not a full survey plan. And so because of that, I can give you paperwork describing everything, photo documentation. The state's going to want to see, the state wants to see this too. You're going to be submitting it to Fish and Wildlife for their review. We did talk about that.
Yeah.
So, yes, what are you asking? You're
I
trying to give
just wanna
me a
make
couple more
sure-
weeks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure, because I would personally wanna make sure he has plenty of time to get it done right the first time, and not just half do it just to get it, sometimes that happens, just to get the foot in the door. But you're confident you can get it done in 2 weeks?
You can file in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's all up here, I just have to put it down.
Hey, thank
We got a
you.
little bit of work to do to sediment depths, but that's gonna happen in the next couple of days.
Have a good night.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and see you in a few weeks. Have a good day.
Are we sending a letter to the logger?
Yep,
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Great
if
on
you
that?
wanna, you can write something on the back of that sheet.
it's all written out,
It's already written out.
If you wanna use that.
good as any.
If you like the letter, if you want to make amendments to it, up to you.
Do you want me to sign it and send it out?
Sunshine here has to sign it.
Sign it.
What we can do is I can get it
This
on
looks
the,
funny.
on the letterhead, and then I can send it to you.
Yeah, and I'll sign it or I'll stop, whatever we need to do.
Well, you come in Monday. So
Yeah,
I can do it
but
then.
let's get it out.
Change one word,
What's that?
allowing the removal. We're encouraging the removal of it. We're not allowing it. We're encouraging the removal. We're allowing, but we're also encouraging it to
What about requiring?
Yeah.
do that too.
Yeah, the computer will put
Do it require?
Yeah, that's fine too.
It does sound like an item, I agree.
Yeah, it does.
Because it has to be removed.
Yep.
Yep. So change allowing to requiring?
Yep.
Requiring?
No, I thought it was encouraging.
They just changed it again. They overruled me.
Change it to requiring.
Yeah, some people aren't as kind as Bob. I know it's hard to believe.
Okay. If there's any other thing. 11 West Sutton Road, on that particular one, she called for erosion controls the other day, so I called Joyce. and Joyce
I went out there and there was nothing there.
No, she wanted you to put them in, Joyce.
This is the plan.
But-
You wanna look at it?
When I called Wanda to tell him there were no erosion controls there, she was reading the thing and there was nothing mentioned about the house being reconfigured or whatever, but,
Yeah.
so,
Right, but you also gotta keep in mind too, is, don't jump to do these erosion control inspections, because all erosion control installations require a letter from the engineer
right.
first. And then, what we do as the commission is the trust but verify inspection.
Yeah.
So,
So-
any request for erosion control should be accompanied with a letter from the engineer.
Yeah, so that's different, Wanda, so,
Yeah, it
yeah. So,
Oh, she called last week, I wasn't here.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why I called you, because
But-
I didn't know.
anybody who calls for an inspection, ask if their engineer has
And she-
verified it with a letter.
She called me on the phone a little bit before, I think, Christmas, and she's obviously very unfamiliar with all of this. And I told her to just keep in close contact with her engineer. And I answered a lot of questions she had, but in the end, that she, going forward, there's things that she's gonna need to rely on her engineer on.
Well, I would think the erosion control inspection goes along with pre-construction conference too. Or
Because-
should, pretty much.
Yes, it could. Not always necessarily. Sometimes they want to get it up ahead of time. I have no problem with that if they want to do it ahead of time. And then we could do the trust but verify inspection at the pre-construction meeting. So sometimes they call, and Joyce is always around to help out, so that's great.
Yeah, so did we ever get a letter from Mr. Romeo there? Because I went out and did those and never thinking of a letter.
No, I didn't think about it either. I don't know, do you want the file for 11 West Sutton, or?
No, not, I can stop and get it if she calls
Do you
again.
want the other, do you want the original plan, or you want to use that one?
For what?
Okay, so you saw where it was.
No, but, well, it's,
No sense in.
no sense in,
She's
I
not
don't need
gonna
it.
playing around with it for the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Right, the dogs will step on it and it'll get all muddy.
We won't figure that one
Might be in
Um,
Arizona too.
make a motion to, table the minutes of December 21st to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. All right. I've just got a couple of things to bring up. Pleasant Valley Crossing, they haven't got a gauge in the middle of that yet. And they were supposed to do that.
Mhm.
So that's something that we gotta remind them of. And we haven't got a report from the golf course on how much water they used from last summer.
Very good.
And we haven't, you know, the year before, they were in here all the time telling us, and we haven't gotten any information, and it was a severe drought, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. Do we need to set a date for the guideline changes?
Yeah, we just wanna wait a little longer.
We've been waiting a long time here.
Yeah, well, you gotta decide what you're gonna do. You wanna take, pull them off the website and print them and see what you wanna change. Cause I know they need to be fixed, right? And
We
then,
had started working on it, right, and then,
yeah, if you start working on it or something, and, I mean, you obviously don't wanna do it on the same night as a meeting. That would be awful. I don't know if you'd wanna do it on another Wednesday night.
should meet and
between
go over it.
meetings. Yeah. And just,
Does that have to be,
I don't know, I'd have to find that out.
Yeah, find that out.
let us know, and then,
Yeah, I can do that.
might have to be, because when we wanted to discuss the bylaw,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Correspondence and tracking sheets.
Yep.
Yeah,
What are we doing with the tracking
printed-
sheets? Anything?
I thought I had emailed some of them to you, but I didn't. So the only thing that's added will be the new stuff for the next meeting.
But I get, my question is, are we doing anything with them?
Not at the moment.
In other
I'm
words-
just adding what's coming in and what's been issued, what's been continued.
I'm asking the committee, all right?
But you're looking at me, Bob.
I'm looking all the way down the road here, okay?
stop.
Lean in.
Do we want to do anything with the tracking sheets? What I have in mind, or what I'm asking, is do we feel any responsibility at all that somebody got it in order conditions and never started the work, and the order conditions has expired? Do we feel any responsibility that we should send a note to people saying, hey, your order conditions that was issued on this date is expiring in 2 months. If you plan on continuing the work, please notify us for an extension, or notify us that you're not doing the work, and we'll get rid of it. Do we feel a responsibility for that?
It's always
I
been, that
thought that we had covered that.
Well, we're not doing anything, so that's why I'm asking the committee here whether or not.
Well, I
they
gave
wanna
you my
do
answer.
something.
You didn't listen.
Well, I think that Dan and Bob was saying that they want me to do the annual update.
Yep.
But that's when it's already started. But
Correct.
What if it hasn't started? What if they haven't done anything?
That's right.
We're gonna
Well-
know to get it off the books, so keep it on, right?
well, we've already always said that people need to apply if they want to extend it.
I understand that.
Well,
So
you have to
the
apply.
people are sitting there, they don't know that they even have to call for an inspection, never mind extend it, all right? And they say, well, I had order conditions,
Where
that's
do
why I did
you
it.
stop with the educational process, Bob?
I don't know, Dan. I
I
don't
sent
have
out
that
the
answer.
letter.
Well, once
but
you do,
If we've got this tracking sheet, do we feel any responsibility to the citizens of the town to notify them, because they're not nearly as astute as you gentlemen are, and ladies, excuse me, because I know I'm not,
I think that you should do that.
that a postcard,
I think that you should do that.
a postcard could be sent out, as well as a letter, just saying, it's on the tracking sheet, so the information is there, the people's name, address, the telephone number, the date that they ordered it is there. Are you gonna continue your project? If you do, you need to get an extension. It's just good bookkeeping as far as
Well,
I'm concerned.
even if they're
have
done,
to
it gets them to
be,
come in and close it out.
Well, that's another whole discussion.
So we don't have another 15 years.
Yes, but how much do you hold a hand?
Right, exactly. That's a good question, Joyce.
I think you
question
hold
is
your
that-
hand the whole way. I think
I
you
don't-
hold your hand the whole way.
And if you
You
don't,
have an obligation to the people in town here to hold their hand the whole way.
and if you don't, and there's a financial ramification, who pays that?
If I don't hold a hand,
Well, I hold on to
Then the
the
question
money
is,
until they
it-
get
it-
their certificate.
Whose problem is it? Is it the commission's problem that
It's the
they never
applicant's
started
problem.
and they forgot to do an extension?
I agree, it's not the commission's problem, but I feel as a citizen of the town of Sutton,
I
on a
gave you
board
the
that's
answer.
supposed to be
Go
serving
right ahead.
the town of
Usually you
Sutton as well
volunteer,
as
it's
its
your
residents,
job.
that for the sake, I know you can't get a 3-cent
Nobody has in
postcard
mind.
anymore,
No,
but for the sake of a 3-cent postcard,
it's not a 3-cent
I
postcard.
said that if you listen. All right? But that's one thing, and then I've still got an issue with if they are, you know, if they had a pre-construction conference and they started the project by virtue of pre-construction, you know, if they haven't completed the project,
Right.
we should tell them that they need to not finish it. They're still obligated to have the erosion control up and in place every year that order of
And all the
conditions
flags fresh.
and everything else.
Everything needs to be fresh.
And
still
so,
open.
you know.
It's an incentive for them to get it done.
Correct, and the letter should state not blah, 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 all right? But it should state that, you know, this is your responsibility. Your responsibility is to refresh the wetland flags. Your responsibility is to keep the erosion control up and in place until it is accepted, until the job is done.
Well, Tim Fisher said their thing was good for 2 more years, and I thought it was expiring in April.
Well,
He said 2 from April, so who,
I
yeah.
believe the last extension was extended for 3 years.
I thought it was 1 year.
Well, we can check the minutes of
Yeah.
the meeting, and I'm sure it'll be very clear in that whether or not it was extended from 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years.
I don't remember offhand, but
So how are we gonna do this, Bob? You wanna do a letter or a postcard?
It can be as
Which one?
simple as a postcard, or it can be as.
do they exist anymore?
I know what he's saying.
Well, I think that's something that should be done. I'm speaking for myself. It only gets done if the 5 members of the committee agree it's gonna be done. So I'm placing it to the committee for a vote to see
Well, I
whether or
don't-
not they wanna continue up this lane or forget about it.
How
My-
far back?
Let's start with the current ones.
Didn't we
And
already do that?
I don't know. I don't know, did we?
I believe we did.
Do you have copies of those letters? Who
Sure.
did we send them out to?
I'm not
What
sending
did
up,
they say?
I'm
Wanda
putting it
sent
on
out.
the
Never
order
got
of
any
conditions.
The order of conditions, the owners don't read, the contractors don't read, the engineers don't read.
And
Where
I
do you-
send
Bob,
a
where do you
2-page
stop holding
letter
their
out
hand?
with it,
We
too.
don't. That's what I'm saying, we don't.
And I also send a certificate of, request for certificate of compliance with the order of conditions.
So all they have to
I
do is fill it
understand that,
out.
but
But they don't read
I
it.
get an order of conditions as an individual, I throw it on the damn desk at the house,
Yeah,
okay?
I know.
The kids scribble on top of it, 3.5 years later, I don't find it anymore.
And what are they
all
gonna
right?
do with the postcard? Junk mail.
Or
You're being too logical.
follow up with an email.
No,
Email, we haven't got email addresses, so we
usually- yeah,
stay
we
with
don't
what we've
usually
got
get
on the,
that.
on the
Okay.
tracking
That's only
form,
in-
okay? That way we don't have to look up anything else or have another excuse for not doing it.
Your best leverage is the order of conditions and having a meeting scheduled and following up on it.
Fine.
well, at the pre-construction
Goodbye.
meeting, it comes up, you ought to file for a certificate of compliance when this is done. So there's, and they
understand,
sign that
yes.
they're there.
I understand. I understand. Okay. But it's not being done, so what are we gonna do about it?
And then
Well,
what
I think
happens,
it's up to them to do it.
Okay.
but then what
fine.
happens is we're in the case where our Stone School Road is 15, 16 years old and then 5 of us look like the bad guys because we're saying you gotta do the
That
job.
one's a little different because it had already started.
Yeah, and we're gonna be the bad guys anyway.
Well,
It's
that's-
the nature of the job.
I have a lot of files in there.
Oh, and
I
don't,
go all
yeah,
the
we
way back
should
to
not forget to talk about
1996.
70 Stone School before we leave.
So,
So the general consensus is we don't have to do anything more than we're doing, and if that's it,
Well,
fine, I'm
I don't
happy
know.
with that. I've spoke my piece, and I won't bring it up again.
I doubt that.
I'll promise it. How's
no,
that?
I think it's good for, from here on out, what we decided is from here on out, Brandon should do that, but it's the back ones that we,
yeah,
so-
that one's have.
You got no
Yeah,
mechanism
I
there.
use Google Calendar, okay? And you can create different different categories, different calendars. So I have a calendar for my work, I have a calendar for my family and my kids and all that, and you can click it and make it appear or make it disappear, because, in case sometimes it gets a little too busy. So I have my own calendar just for anniversary dates for orders of conditions, okay?
So going forward, that'll
So I
work.
can click it. So it wouldn't be that much harder to put an anniversary date on any and all orders of conditions, whether or not they've started or they're going. So it's not that difficult to create.
We've already got it, other than the fact that it's on a piece of paper. Wanda's been keeping it on, I think it's called a tracking sheet.
It's just a matter of how much you're gonna hold a person's hand if they haven't started the work at all. If they've already started the work, sure, we're gonna make sure, we're gonna go there every year. We're going to make sure the flags are there, the erosion controls are up, that they're doing everything they're supposed to do, and we're gonna charge them for it, right? And say, the pain can end. All you have to do is submit for a certificate of compliance. But if they haven't started the work, then, it's still forced, so what's the big deal?
The only deal is that there's been a couple of cases where people have naively come in here and said, my order of conditions expires next week, and I'd like to extend them. And we smugly sit here and say, hey, too bad, so sad. You gotta do it 2 months before it expires, you have to do it all over again, goodbye. And I don't think that's right. Okay? I just don't think that's right. I'd hate to be put in that position myself.
Right. And then what you
I
do
think it's unfair.
is you can create an alarm to remind yourself when there's a meeting coming up or whatever, and you can have it go anywhere from 3 months to 3 minutes before the meeting starts. So what you could do is, for that particular order of conditions, you say, remind me that this is coming up, 2 months ahead of time. And then I'll know, oh, maybe this one needs to send out a letter to ask you if they extend their order, so they don't forget about it.
So you're saying you want to do that, so then one will
I'm
send a letter
already
out?
doing it. I'm already doing it. It's just a matter of, I'm just explaining, probably helping Bob out, but I'm telling you, it's not that difficult a thing to do.
But the problem is the ones way back, so maybe it would be worth sending them to, not the current ones, but letters to the people that are way back.
Bob's been trying to get that done for, how many years, Bob?
I did send out
Yeah.
letters to the
Ones back,
3
yeah.
years back. It's the others from there.
You and I
have
started
lawyers
looking at a
calling
list.
me. They call me and ask
What if we
me.
publish the list on the cable TV?
Who watches the
Wanted to do
cable
that
TV?
3 years ago, and Mark said no.
Who
Well-
watches the cable TV?
Some people do.
I know, but not necessarily those people that have
No.
taken out order of conditions.
Well,
And a lot of them too are from out of town, out of state. Unfortunately, they own the property, but
well, they have to accept some responsibility for themselves at some point.
I'm just trying to make our lives easier and cleaner, and at the same time, be a good citizen to my neighbors in town. That's all.
it is a good idea, but, how much paperwork can you send them? They don't read it, obviously, because I send out the 2-page letter with the orders. And we're lucky if we get up the sign with the DEP number.
We, as far as I know, we never have a problem with the sign and DP
Right.
number, okay?
We have.
The rest
We have in the
well,
past, but we
Yeah.
don't now, because when Brandon goes
Right.
out for his
Right.
pre-construction meeting,
We
if
look
it ain't
for
up,
it. Right.
They
he's
don't
gotta
start.
put it up,
Right.
all right?
Right.
So, let's not talk about things that used to be, that aren't now. The thing that is still not happening now is we've got people that are coming in and getting an order of conditions, aren't doing the job. We got people coming in, getting order of conditions, starting the job, and never closing the order of conditions. I think those are the two things that we have to find a way.
When they don't close the order conditions, that's when if the lien is still on the property.
I understand
don't-
the lien,
it's like they don't
but
have-
we're not talking about the, we're talking about how do we solve a problem, all right, and get the order of conditions closed.
Well, it should be okay from here on out, right? Because that's what we,
That's correct.
Should be better.
Should be
should be
better.
better.
It's all the old ones.
Yeah, basically anything before.
Stone School Road, before we leave, you had something?
Yes, on School Road.
I'll let Bill start.
I got a call from the attorney found me, and she said she spoke to the original builder who walked the property 15 years ago with Elise. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
And she has no recollection of anything
And that's what I
like
was gonna
that.
say. And Joy spoke to her, I believe, earlier today, and she says she doesn't remember walking that. So basically, I said if there's something from the builder that shows that, doesn't change anything necessarily, but it would be nice to see it in black and white. So,
Yeah. So I'll just
Um,
watch for that.
and it looks, Brad, we still believe that they did cross the wetland, right?
Yes.
I do.
Right? So nothing's changed. So I told them
And
they
they
got to.
didn't do a replication area.
If they did
As
not,
far
it
as I can tell, the area outlined on the plan,
was never touched.
looks to me, my opinion, is that that area was
It's
never
trees like
touched, and there
this.
was no replication area done. Elise Aubin denies that she gave any kind of authorization.
And even if there was, it should have been in writing, and it wasn't, so.
Right, exactly. And even if, if it wasn't, I don't know how they operated back then, but by today's standards, I'm sure with this commission, having a unilateral conservation commissioner say, yeah, don't worry about it, wouldn't fly.
Doesn't go too far.
Doesn't go too far. these
And
days.
Elise would never have said that.
Yeah. yeah,
And
she's
there was
done
no
it.
$2,000 bond.
There never was a bond.
Yeah, no, there wasn't, because it would have been downstairs, it would have found it.
So I did tell them they have to, with the letter one, it said you still got to go forward with the bond. So I think that's the
I had
avenue
a
to
person
take.
come in, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, for information, and I gave them some paperwork,
Yeah.
and I guess they're gonna try to file
So
something.
the contractor, I guess, said he was disappointed that it wasn't specified what kind of wetland plants they had to plant. And I said, that's not for us to say, that's for what.
I saw there was a wetland
Oh,
plan
yeah,
showing what
there
plants they
was.
had to
And
put in.
I had him sit and go through the whole file. I had him go through the file, see what you can find in it that you're looking for, and he had me make a couple copies and.
But when that replication area is done, it's an engineer or someone who designs it. It's not the five of us designing it.
It would be a wetland scientist.
Exactly, so that's what I said, it's up to the scientists to do that, not us.
That
on
would
the
have been
board.
done before the order of conditions.
It was
issued.
supposed to
Exactly.
be, yeah, and. why
The
it
drawings,
wasn't
the
done now.
drawings
Right,
were,
wrong here.
Exactly.
the drawings were incomplete, and they did not have the details for the wetland replication. They showed the location of the wetland replication, but they didn't show the details of the construction of it.
And it specifies usually that, on it, that it should be done first, and
Especially now
that's
it
why,
does.
yeah.
Yeah, that was how the commission learned. This is a very good example.
This is where you start.
You do the replication first, otherwise you end up in a situation just like this, which nobody likes.
And bridge designed by others was another way we learned.
Yep, I agree, yep. Or even retaining wall, one of the two.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.